all great points. I can tell you this, right now, I've heard it different ways, and Jeff kind of follows the same philosophy of time blocking, right? So the one thing that I found really hard as a loan officer to do was to compartmentalize my day, right? To view it as, when should I be prospecting? When should I be following up? What should I be doing at certain times of the day? And you find out really quickly that in mortgages, the whole day can get away from you, right? So the discipline for me was having a system in place. So my system was really pretty easy for me. So when I first started as a loan officer, so if you guys raised your hand for being brand new in the industry, 24/7, 7 days a week, prospecting, as much as I could possibly do. For me to have enough leads to prospect so I didn't beat up the leads over and over again, I had to buy leads, right? I wasn't handed anything. I hadn't made realtor relationships yet. So to start my business, I was buying some age data, about 90-day-old leads. I could get thousands of leads for a couple $100, throw it into my CRM, throw it in my pipeline, and begin the grind. Because if you don't have enough opportunities to call, right? Let's say you only have a handful of 20 leads, right? Well, how many times are you going to beat up those 20 leads? Okay? So you're going to go through them pretty quick, right? If you want to put a solid 8-hour day into it, which is not enough in the mortgage industry, but you were going to work 8 hours, you've already called those leads probably about 15 times each. Let's face it. So that's not really going to get you the business. You're just going to piss off a lot of people. So you have to have opportunities, and you have to make that investment. So for me, having a pipeline, 2,000, 3,000 leads that I can actually get into a grind and do things, I was able to establish certain metrics that I knew would make me successful. So I knew in the beginning, 200, 300 dials a day, if I kept at it, I could measure that, I could set goals around it, I could time block around that. I could then track my progress and see what was working well. Once I started getting a pipeline established, then now it turned into time block in the day where I had 3 separate call blocks. I had other blocks throughout the day where I prioritized my tasks, right? Because one of the big questions you get as a loan officer when you're trying to teach classes and stuff like that is, how do you know who to call, when to call them, right? And at the end of the day, every call has to have a purpose. So for me, putting them in, getting them into the pipeline, getting them established, and understanding each person was in a certain step of the process. So my goal was to get you from step 1 to step 2 to step 3 to step 4, right? And then get people into step 1. Understanding that allowed me to kind of prioritize my day. So I knew, when I'd pick up the phone, my CRM was pretty well organized. I knew exactly my purpose for calling this person. Because if you're going to call somebody and you're not going to have an agenda, you're not going to have a reason for the call or a value to that call, don't call them, right? Don't call them. You're going to waste time. You're going to burn through a lead. It's not worth it. But when you can have them organized and hey, I'm calling this person because I got to follow up on getting their documents, I can get them pre-qualified, I have a purpose to my conversation, I can go right into it. And we can establish that to get them to take the next step. So for me, it was trying to be as efficient with my time as possible and not just throwing dials around like they didn't mean anything. So, anybody else? Want to talk about your time block, Jeff? This guy's a beast.
Yeah, so I get up at my kid, he's 10 years old, and he has to be up and ready by 5 a.m. so that we can hit the gym for his basketball before he goes to school and before I go to work. That's how it starts, and usually ends around 8 o'clock at night. So every 30 minutes is booked, and sometimes I got to stop people just so I can get to that next call on time. And you become obsessed with time blocking. It starts, with one thing, and then you add another thing, and then you add another thing, and then pretty soon you are just obsessed with it. Everything's time blocked.
Yeah.
So
organized chaos.
What would a Monday look like? Tuesday? Let's get into the nitty-gritty, right?
I mean, they're all different. I mean, it's like I said, we're out the door at 5 a.m. We get back 6:30. From there, he gets ready for school. I shower and get ready for the day. At 7:45, we have a meeting with my loan officers and loan officer assistants. We go through the whole pipeline. After that, me and Jason have a meeting to set up the day. And then from there, we transition into another meeting, believe it or not, for our business development so they can update realtors every day with what's real. And then from there, depending on my assistants and my schedule, I'm either recruiting people to Nexa or I'm talking to clients, selling them, structuring their loan, whatever the case may be, up until 8 o'clock.
In my day, I'm an individual loan officer, so even though there's a couple of us sharing a license, I don't have a team. I'm kind of like a one-man show, just sharing a license with 2 other guys. But time blocking for me is everything because I don't have a processor, I don't have a loan officer assistant, I don't have anybody other than myself. So my morning starts, I get up between 7:30 if I'm sleeping in. I'm answering emails from about 8 to about 8:30, going through them, clearing them, and then answering the ones after that needs answered right away. Immediately check conditions from underwriters because of being 3 hours different than most of our underwriters. Most of the stuff I upload the night before, I've already got answers on that morning. And then basically the rest of my day is spent loan officering, talking to realtors, talking to clients, things of that nature. And then I'm a little bit of an oddball because I'm a night owl. So my wife typically goes to bed about 10:30. I usually shut down from my loan officering duties around 6. We have dinner, hang out, do whatever we're going to do. About 10:30 she goes to bed, and then I'm back in my office because I work from home from about 10:30 to about 2:30 in the morning, processing. I love processing, by the way. I know a lot of loan officers hate processing.
I love it.
I hate it.
If I can make
Me too.
if I can make the money that I make as a loan officer, I'd just be a processor because I love that part of it. But that's how I do my day. It's like my day is 2 days. It's a loan officer first part of the day. It's a processor the last half of the day. Now, granted, I don't sleep like a lot of people do, so I'm 4 or 5 hours a night and I'm good. So it's beneficial to me in that aspect. But without that structure of saying, okay, I'm not going to get caught in the weeds ordering title, ordering insurance at 3 o'clock in the afternoon when I could be talking to a realtor or a client or prospecting.
Those are the prime hours, you know?
Yeah, that's
prime hours.
Yeah, I mean, at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, when I can shoot an email off to a State Farm agent, or I can shoot an email off to, Kim over at Old Republic Title, that's time well spent because there's nobody else needing my time at night. So, and I'm not saying everybody in here should work late at night like that, but it's just finding your time blocks to structure your day properly, because even if you have a processor and loan officer assistant, you still have things that you'll get yourself in the weeds on if you're not careful. And I see it time and time again, and I used to be guilty of it. It took me years to get into a groove, but loan officers, we tend to get lost in the weeds if we're not really, really careful. We get lost in a deal that can just be a complete waste of time because our egos get in the way to where we feel like we're going to be the superhero and take that 499 credit score with no money down and find a way to make it work. We're not, So don't be a superhero. Be a hero to the ones you can get done, but don't get caught in the weeds because it happens all too often in this business.
So what I'm hearing you say, Todd, is we need to work more on our business than in it sometimes for that sales activity, right? So, and the other thing that I would suggest is, how many of you have a coach? Okay.
Want to see more hands than that. Everybody needs a coach, right? LeBron's got a coach. Jordan had a coach. Everybody has a coach. Even if you're at the top of your game and you think you are, you still need to get better. So.
Yeah, you've never arrived, right? Like, there's always something to learn. My day is a little bit different because I have 5 children. And so, 6 a.m. we're up. Maybe I'll hop on the Peloton. Maybe I won't. That's
time block.
What?
Time block.
Yeah. Maybe I need 30 minutes of extra sleep. Bottom line is, though, my day doesn't start until 8 a.m. with work because I'm taking my kids to school. It's something I value. This business, the beauty of this business is it can be what you want it to be. It can be what you want it to be. And so for me, that's starting at 8 a.m. My coach, I'm saying it in, my coach told me, and it has made me more efficient because all of my realtor calls, buyers agents, listing agents, and clients need to be called before 12. And I have a day every week that I call them. All right. Now, we know those things that come up and you need to call a borrower about something, but it really is just a status update call, making them feel warm and fuzzy about the transaction, making the realtor feel warm and fuzzy about the transaction, and asking for business from the listing agent. What you do, write this down. This is your take action approach. Write this down. You call the listing agent at the very beginning of a transaction, and you say, Mr. Agent, Mrs. Agent, I'm going to give you great communication. I'm going to give you a Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever day you pick, status update call. In that call, I'm going to tell you whether the appraisal has come back, whether title has come back, if where we are in underwriting, and the most important, if we're going to close on time, once a week. Now, if I do all these things, have I earned your next referral? Or have I earned a cup of coffee to ask for a referral? And if they say yes, and you do everything you're supposed to do, at the end of that, when that transaction is closed and everyone's happy, you say, hey, Mr. So-and-so, I lived up to my end of the bargain. I'd like to have that cup of coffee with you. And you never know where that next referral is going to come from. But it starts with making those calls consistently. That consistency builds trust. Consistency builds trust in this industry. Go ahead, Todd.
Yeah, so I'll add on to the listing agent thing, because the vast majority of my realtors that I work with today at one time were listing agents, so what she's saying is invaluable. But all of my realtors, except for one, and I still can't get through to this guy, to this day, I can't get this guy to do this. But the rest of my realtors, all of them except for one, when they present an offer to the listing agent, they CC me on the email, and they put in the email, Joe Smith, this is my customer, Mary Smith, who's offering on whatever. By the way, I've included the lender, Todd Bitter, on this email. I've worked with him for years. He's a great lender. He can expand on anything you might need from the pre-approval side. I don't wait for them to call me. I literally, as soon as that email goes out, I reply all, introduce myself, and then I usually wait an hour or two, and I call them. And I introduce myself. And I tell you what, I've had so many listing agents over the years that are like, wow, nobody ever calls us and tells us, I've got 4 offers here, but this means a lot that you're actually calling me and saying, yeah, you got bank statements. Yeah, you've done this. Yeah, all this has been verified. And it's actually won deals that were like competing similar deals with other customers that the loan officer was never bothered to call or wasn't even tagged. And every agent except for one does it. This guy that won't do it, I don't know why. He just says he doesn't want me meddling in his deal. He's also an agent I do maybe 2 deals a year with, so that tells you a lot. But but the rest of them do that. And so train your agents to put you on those offer emails. It gives you the in to do exactly what she's saying, where you get in that agent's ears and you tell them how you're going to perform. And it gives you an opportunity to build. Most contracts are 21 to 30 days. You've got a captive audience with an agent that normally would ignore your calls for the next 4 weeks. That's invaluable. Because go try cold calling an agent and ask them to coffee. You're going to get hung up on 90% of the time. For the next 30 days, that listing agent's going to take your calls every time because they think it's something important, and usually it is. But you're building a relationship over 30 days. It's like speed dating with agents for 30 days.
And I think, Todd brings up a great point. Calling the listing agent first, right? Calling them, early in the transaction sets the tone for your transaction, because there's so many times, when I've talked to an agent or something like that, they feel like the loan officer was scared to deliver bad news or any kind of news, right? But then when it was good news, they're like, hey, I got great news. We got the appraisal in, and whatever it might be. But they always had a follow-up question. Well, great, you got the appraisal in, but when is, when are docs going to be done? When's going to be out of underwriting? Whatever it might be. But building a relationship with the listing agent, you should already have one with hopefully the buyer's agent, right? Because you guys are a team. But building a relationship and extending that olive branch to the listing agent early in the transaction is going to help you build that relationship and earn referrals later on. I've actually earned, over my time, more referrals from the listing agents than I had from my buyer's agents, because we were kind of, handing people back and forth a lot, because they saw how hard I was able to work for my buyer, and they wanted somebody sellers are going to become buyers at some point, guys, right? So at some point, they're going to be the other side of the transaction, and they're going to need a loan officer who's going to fight just as hard for their client as you just fought for yours, right? So be that person, right? Show them that example that I'm willing to, to do everything I can to get my client, pre-approved, to buy this home, right? And at the end of the day, it's going to pay it forward, right? So, I think each person up here has a unique perspective. They've been successful at a high rate and been doing it for a while. I think more importantly, when you start peeling things away, you start understanding that there's a lot of discipline that goes into doing this job at a high level. And these guys up here are some of the best in the business at staying consistent, right? Being disciplined, building relationships, and continually trying to take it to the next level, and obviously always answering our phones.
So the action, no, go ahead, man. I talk a lot.
No,
Okay.
you're good.
How many calls a day, I just want to field it from you guys, how many calls a day should we be making in this market? And you know the market we're in. How many calls a day?
As many as it takes. As
What
many as
is
it takes
that?
to
Give us
get
a number.
another deal.
Give us a number.
It depends on the amount of leads that you have and stuff like that, but 100, if you're making 10 calls a day in any market, it's not going to get it done. You might be semi-successful, but it's not going to get it done. So everybody's different. For me, if I wasn't making anywhere between 200 and 300 calls a day, then I knew there was a problem with me, right? Not my leads. There's a problem with me not doing it, not being motivated. So for me, my number is always 200 to 300 calls a day.
For me, it's not really calls. It's how long have I talked to somebody for that day? So if I can spend 2-3 hours on the phone talking to someone, whether that took 100 calls or 300 calls, the calls is just to get me to talk to people. So the end result for me is just how many people did I talk to? And how long did I talk to them?
So you time block 3 hours a day to talk to people, or what do you do?
Let's see, I have at least 6 hours a day to talk to people.
Okay.
Half the day at least.
Yeah.
So I'm at a very different place in my career right now, so I don't make a lot of outgoing calls right now, but I've got a large stable of realtors that refer me business. But I'm with Jeff. I probably spend 4 to 5 hours a day just talking, whether it's realtors, whether it's title companies, whether it's underwriters, customers. Underwriters aren't going to get you much business other than you're communicating with. They'll help things go smoothly. They'll get you future business. And I don't want to get too far in the weeds because I have a thing I'm doing on stage tomorrow for you guys that's going to get into the weeds of how I really develop realtors, so I don't want to take up too much time here. But title companies are valuable, guys. If you polled 100 title companies in Phoenix, which there's probably 200 title companies almost in Phoenix, there's a ton of them. But if you polled, I don't know, just say 100 title companies, you probably find 75 of them that know me and know how I operate and like working with me. And those title agents have, over the years, referred me business. So I can only say this, everywhere you go, you need to be a loan officer. So if you're at dinner tomorrow night with your spouse, you're still a loan officer during that dinner. And if you hear the table next to you talking about housing, because the people are discussing, politely just slide your card over to them and say, hey, I don't mean to interrupt, but if you ever need, I hear you talking about housing, I'm here for you if you need me. I tell everybody that'll listen what I do for a living, and I do it 24/7. I don't care where I'm at, what I'm doing. If I can tell somebody what I do for a living and give them a card, I do it. Sometimes it's met with kind of a side eye, like leave me alone. But usually people are pretty nice about it. So don't turn off that switch of being a loan officer at 5 o'clock or 8 o'clock or whatever time. Be that loan officer 24/7 and always be selling. I mean, that's the old cliche, but it's true.
Know your ABCs, right? Yep. So always be closing. Yeah. Never stop prospecting. Never stop generating, opportunities. So there's a lot of different ways to do this business. Like I said, I paid for leads, right? I bought a ton of leads so that I could have a lot of things to keep me busy and keep me active. So my mindset was on how many dials am I making? Am I always staying busy? I was either on the phone calling somebody, the grind. It was either on, my two goals, either be on the phone dialing somebody to talk to, or be on the phone talking to somebody to take the next step. Whatever that step might be. My CRM was organized so I knew what the next step was, right? Whether I need to get you in touch with a realtor partner to get you in a car looking at homes for sale, whether I need to be collecting docs for me to get you, pre-qualified so we can get you in that position, whatever it might be. When I made my calls, so when I say 200, 300 calls a day, it was all sorts of calls. It was following up with realtors, right? It was following up with my processor doing a pipeline review, right? Eventually we did that just on Zoom. It was a lot easier that way, but it was always a call to be made. 200 to 300 calls a day I don't think is enough at times. So for me.
Yeah, we do a thing in our branch that's CCTE, and what that means is we call, if they don't answer, we don't leave a message, but we call right again. Mm-hmm. And then we leave a message, then we'll send a text, then we'll send an email. So we over-communicate with everybody. And usually if someone calls you twice in a row, it's an emergency, so you're going to answer the phone. And it works. If you're not doing that, take action, start doing CCTE.
Well, one of the things, again, I just go back to my coach because I started coaching, and I can't tell you, in this market, especially right now, there's a lot of noise. And you may feel disconnected. That's why we have LOSummit, right? That's why we are in Nexa, where we have Zoom. But you also need a smaller community, and coaching can be that community. And there's a wonderful coach here, Christine Beckwith. She's amazing with 2020
She's
vision.
my coach.
By the way.
She's awesome.
Yeah.
Jealous.
Yeah, so, but one of the things my coach has said right now is I should never eat alone. I should never eat alone. Whether that's a real estate agent, and hopefully that's more of those, whether it's a client, I should have like 5 break breads a week. I should have 10 to 15 face-to-faces. I should have 12 calls a day, and each one of those calls should be substantiated, like really, true, legit. It's not like, hey, do you have insurance? Okay, bye. Not like that. Like 12 where I'm looking at a lead, I'm meeting with a real estate agent, I'm calling past referrals. Mm-hmm. Does anyone have a closed loan blueprint that they do? What do you do?
Every 6 months for the next 3 years after a loan closes, we follow up with the client to make sure they're in the best loan possible.
And how many referrals do you think you get from one client who you follow up with?
I couldn't even count.
So these are what top producers are doing. And I have to tell you, I do not feel like a top producer because we started this in 2020, okay? And I have no good reason to be up here, except for I learned from other people who were way far ahead of me, like Jason DuPont, Jeff DuPont, Wade Betts, DJ Christofferson, Matt Mike, Todd Bitter. I learned from all these guys. I am no one special. I have every reason to not be here. I have 5 kids. I can make every excuse in the book, y'all. But at the end of the day, right? But here's the deal. No one cares. No one cares. No one cares.
That's the truth.
I mean, what is a top producer anyway? I mean, there's no number I think you can put on a top producer. I think it's more of a mindset, What I need to produce to consider winning might be different for her with her kids because I don't have any kids. My kids are grown. So we're all different in what it takes to be a winner in this industry, but you have to set those goals and hit them. But one of the things that, she had talked about never eating alone like Christine. By the way, Christine's awesome. She's the one coach I would recommend. I'm not a big, there's a lot of coaches I think that are out there trying to tell people how to do it and they never did it themselves. Christine actually walked the walk and talked the talk, and she's my girl. She's the one that I would recommend.
She's awesome.
But, I don't work for Nexa. Why am I here? I'm here because by showing up and talking to all these people, I'm getting something out of this. I might be giving something. I'm hoping I'm giving something. But I show up to events. I show up to realtor offices. I just show up because you're going to learn something. I probably have been in business. I don't know how long these two have been in business, but I'm assuming
3 years.
I've been in mortgages 4 years.
Okay, 27 years as of last 2 weeks ago, okay? I still learn from people like her that's been in business 3 years, I learned something about 6 months ago from a friend of mine that's been in the business for 2 years that was using social media in a way that I never thought to use it. So show up, whether it's Nexus events, whether it's other events like EPMX or Fuse or whatever. You're gonna learn. You always have to be a sponge and be ready to learn from others, no matter how long you've been doing this. And I've probably been doing it longer than most people in this room. And I still learn to this day.
about lifelong learning, guys. We got about 2.5 minutes left. So if we want to take some questions, we'll do a Q&A real quick. If anybody has anything they want to peel back the layers on or have us maybe dive, deeper on something. Any questions out there? Oh. God, were we that good? Eric? Trigger. All right, so we had a question here on question on trigger leads. I personally did not get involved in trigger leads.
I did not either.
I don't either. They're cheap and they're unethical in my opinion, and you're competing with the bottom of the barrel. I just would avoid them. I would just do business better.
Relationships.
Yeah.
And those leads really are horrible right now. All those people that you're actually calling probably have roots in the twos. So you're wasting your time. We do not buy leads organically. Guys, the long game is relationships. This is a relationship business. You are a pursuer of people. The more people you pursue, the more things you learn.
Right.
The more hands you shake, the more money you'll make.
And when I said I purchased leads and worked on a leads team, they were all purchase leads. We didn't do any refis, any trigger leads. It was all purchase leads because I could build relationships with that. I could build relationships with a buyer's agent, a listing agent, right? Title, everything. I can build relationships with that lead. And that led to more residual business. So
If you have that money, go invest in your own brand.
there you go.
Go get some educational material out there. Nexa has so many resources, y'all.
We do. Yeah. Pay for coaching.
Pay for coaching.
Great point.
I got the
Well,
microphone.
I got
so
one
I'm
back
gonna
there
steal it.
too. I think that one was first, right?
Sweetheart, we say we're a recruiter of people. Our coach taught us something that I want you to speak to. I think it could be a big takeaway. The pre-work ritual.
Oh, yeah. So about time management, if you're not doing this, you need to. Because I got called out on a coaching call because I was late. Don't be late to appointments, right? That's like the rookie mistake. He told me it's like a rookie mistake, right?
Yeah.
And so one of the things he told me is like 30 minutes before you start your day, you're going to look at your schedule. And you're going to figure out if you have any conflicts. You shouldn't have because you are looking at your schedule in the morning and at night. So 30 minutes before you look at your schedule and you check emails very quickly. That is not the majority of your time. The majority of your time should be on that phone. Also, read Fanatical Prospecting. Just read it. If you don't have enough leads, read Fanatical Prospecting and then read it again. Okay, so do that in the morning and at night, and it should help you like feel cleared the rest of the day, and also make sure you don't make rookie mistakes like I did. I was late for a coaching call with a guy who produces like $1 billion a year. Yeah, I looked stupid. It was bad.
You should know what your schedule is tomorrow, today. Right? You should already know what's on that schedule. Before you leave the office or before you come into the office, take a look at your schedule and you know. There shouldn't be any surprises because it's on your schedule. If you're surprised by something on your schedule, you got a problem. You're not prioritizing.
One more question?
Yep, one more.
So I wanted to ask, as a mom, Joey, so I've been with Nexa now for 2 years, and I'm an instructor in the academy, and I know there's a lot of, moms and dads that come in and try to get that work-life balance, and I just kind of wanted to ask you, since, you've been here 2 years, what do you think was the best takeaway, or what do you think that somebody could do to adjust to have that? Because this is a really, 24/7 gig that you're always, as a parent. What do you think? Did you, kind of boundaries, or what do you?
Well, first, I have a very awesome situation. My husband who asked that question, Paul Francisco, he's the reason I'm even doing any of this. I was a school teacher. I didn't know boundaries as a school teacher either, though. So one of the things I got in, literally coaching, y'all, has saved my life. What you do, you pay for coaching, you pay for that knowledge, so you don't make the mistakes and waste your money like they did. That's what you do with coaching, right? And you hopefully speed up light years of what you're going to do. So as far as mothering, it's hard, but guess what? I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm so much more than a loan officer. And if you follow me on Facebook or TikTok, you see that, right? Loans are a wonderful part of my life, but, I put it in its proper place. For you, that might mean doing it after the kids are bed. For Todd, right, it's having that family time at night. For me, it's making sure I keep my day really 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. And after that, if I do any more, it's on my own time after the kids go to bed and being up until 1 a.m. Go ahead.
Obviously I'm not a mother, but one thing I can relate to about the family thing is that every time I show up for an event, whether it's happened today, usually the first 10 questions I get is, where's Evie? My wife. A lot of you know her.
I asked that.
Yeah, you asked that. I think Mike Horters asked it, a few other people asked it. It's so important as loan officers, especially as you get busier and busier, that you incorporate and you make your spouse understand how this business works, and you introduce your spouse to it. And the right spouse can make or break a loan officer in this business, because I can tell you, if your spouse doesn't understand what you do and what it takes to be successful in this business, it's going to create problems. I have an ex-wife for a reason, and that's because she didn't understand what I needed to do to succeed in this business. My current wife we've been together 15 years now, she gets it. She shows up. She understands this. She's learned how to cope with what I do for a living, and it allows me to succeed. So if your spouse doesn't understand what you do, incorporate them in. They don't have to do your job. They don't have to even be your assistant. Just you need to bring them aboard some of these events, make them understand what's important to your job, because the right spouse it can make or break your career. It honestly can.
Whatever goal you're going to set, for your business, you've got to share it with your loved ones. They have to understand the vision, whatever sacrifice is going to go into it, the time that it's going to take, because they're going to have a lot of questions. And if they haven't done this industry, or they haven't done this at a high level like you're trying to do, they're going to feel like they're getting abandoned. So you have to talk to them about it. These are our goals. This is what I'm trying to do for our family. This is where we're trying to go. This is what we're trying to create. And once you have buy-in from your partner, it makes it a lot easier to achieve your goals, right? So don't be afraid to share those goals. The other thing I would say, if you want to have a work-life balance, I don't even know what that means, but I put everything on my calendar. Everything is on my calendar. If my kids have a football game, or my daughter's got a soccer game, or lunch, I put literally everything is on my calendar. I make time. I time block everything. Why? Because I have to constantly. There's a lot of things you're going to have to give your time to, right? If you're a dad or a mom, and you have kids, right? You have to give your time. In order to do it, you have to have it organized, so everybody gets a piece of you, right? So that's me, it was a big one.
I second that.
And then also, as far as being a female, right? And males too, you guys, do you cut your own lawns?
Not anymore.
No.
Okay.
I don't have time. I got to make calls.
Well,
If I did, it'd be on the calendar.
it would be on the
That's
calendar.
true. That's true.
So I started looking at my job, and you guys probably do this too, where I can make thousands of dollars an hour if I'm at peak performance, right? Maybe. I don't know. But I try to visualize that. And so cleaning my house, I finally hired a housekeeper. I mean, no one says...
Know your highest and best use, right?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we have a pool guy, we have a yard guy, we have a cleaners. I have a guy that shows up and washes our cars once a week. I mean, all that's time that's wasted that can be spent doing what we do best. And I'll tell you what, and he said that you guys have probably heard, if any of you guys have ever been to Pontiac and seen Matt Ishbia talk, or at one of these events, Matt said something to me, gosh, it's been a number of years ago. He said, I don't remember the last time I got gas in my car. I just thought, okay. He's like, I have my personal assistant that does that. He said, Todd, the time it takes me to go get gas, I can return 3 or 4 emails, I can make 2 or 3 phone calls that can make this company money. Me going to the gas station and pumping my own gas, not that he told me, he said, it's not that he's too good to do it, his time is just better spent doing something else. So he pays people to do the little things that aren't important to his career. And it always struck me as profound because I find that I do very similar things, although I do pump my own gas, but I don't have an assistant. But, it's just those little things that you can get caught. It's like I was saying before, don't get caught in the weeds. Loan officers get caught in the weeds all the time. Stay out of the weeds, focus on your production and what's important to your career.
If you're a loan officer, you're first and foremost a salesperson. If you don't bring in loans, no one gets paid. Those real estate agents don't get paid, the sellers don't sell their home, the buyers don't buy a home. And so your number one job is not to process a loan, even though I know you want to, buddy. Your number one job...
It's a noble cause.
Yeah. Your number one job is to do sales activity. And so, and if you pay for those services to make your life easier, you better dang well be doing that activity because you're taking money from your family, right? Don't be lazy.
All right, guys, that's all we have right now. We went over on time, so yeah, no, you're good. Don't worry about it. So thank you so much. I think our next group is going to be the executive panel. So stay tuned for that one. All right, guys.
And answer your damn phones.
And answer your damn phones.
All right. How'd everybody like that last panel? All right. I know everybody's kind of settling from lunch. All the blood's finally flowing. So let's get everybody to stand up. Everybody stand up. Yeah, that's my job. I'm going to make you feel uncomfortable. That is my freaking job. Get you outside that comfort zone. Because I'll tell you what, this next panel, they're really, how many of us feel like the market's a little bit unique right now? Unique? Yeah, I could say all kinds of other words, but I said unique. How many of you want to understand really what's going on and how you can leverage that and really be that voice in your community to better educate your clients? How many of you want to learn that? Nobody does? Nobody wants to be better at their craft? So I want you to stand up. As many of you know, if you're following on my channels, I'm big into health. And as our blood and as oxygen starts to go to our stomachs, we start to get a little bit tired. I know that just happens, but I want you to all stand up. Take a deep breath. Everybody take a big, deep breath right now. Oh, yeah. Stretch it out. Stretch your arms. Stretch your legs. Because I promise, this next one, you're not going to want to fall asleep during. This last panel, there were so many things mentioned. As I mentioned earlier in the day, we want you to take action. We want you to start writing down these things. Start looking for opportunities that you can better your business, that you can grow right now more than ever. This was mentioned earlier. Mike mentioned, look at the people at your table. Look at the people around you. Unfortunately, I hate to say this, that some of them might not be here next year. If they don't start taking the right actions, if they don't start doing the right things. When she mentioned how many of you have a coach, only a fraction of you raised your hands. Everybody needs a coach. You have to start looking at these opportunities now, investing in yourself for the future. So, I am humbled and honored. Oh, I get 2 more minutes. Yes, I'm very excited. Okay, now that everybody's standing up, I want you to raise your hand. Who has made a post on social media since you've been here? Raise your hand. Oh, okay. Who's made 2 posts on social media? Oh, let's see who can win. Maybe we can figure out a prize or something. Who's gotten 3 posts on social media? Okay, we got stories, reels. What do we got going on? Instagram, over here, what do you got? Right here, what do you got? Nice, okay, right here. Where are you posting? Very good, stories. We're down here, where are you posting at? Are you posting? Where? Facebook? Oh, there we go. Who's posting on LinkedIn? Anybody? A couple of you posting on LinkedIn? What about YouTube? Not a single YouTuber. Oh, we got to change that. YouTube is the most, we got 1 or 2 in the back? Awesome. So, be taking advantage of these opportunities. Do we have everybody here now? We were trying to kill time. Do we see Mike? I do see Mike in the back. Cool. So, I have the honor and the privilege to introduce this next panel. Every single one of these gentlemen I know personally. Every single one of them I have interviewed in the past. And there's a reason they're about to come up on stage and share the state of the market because they're incredibly knowledgeable, they're talented, and they have dedicated their lives to us as an industry to help us become better. So it is my privilege to introduce Eddie Perez, Alan Baydoun, Mike Cordes, Pablo Martinez, and Tony Cottonbrock. Come on up, guys. Jackie? Actually, we're missing one.
I think they're missing a chair.
We're actually missing Jackie Dunlap. Where's Jackie? She in here? She's not in here? Well, when somebody sees her, tell her to come up here. I got a seat for her right here. Look, they make me work all the time here. So I couldn't figure out where to sit these guys. So I was afraid. I thought maybe I had to put Pablo and I in between some of these guys. Right? So
We gotta mix it in there.
guys, this is just a hodgepodge session a little bit, right? Do I have two mics on? Yeah, my bad. So this is just a little bit of a hodgepodge session to talk to some of the executives in the industry, the people who lead the industry, the people who kind of control where the industry goes, if you will, and the people who are actively involved within the industry so that we can kind of get a perspective of where the markets are going, what you should be able to expect, and what you should hope for, right? So I'm going to give a few minutes to each person. Take a few minutes to introduce yourselves. Try not to elbow the guy next to you, maybe. So,
I'm Tony Kadenbrock. I'm with New Res. I guess right off the bat, just real quickly, I'll address the fact that we recently, or I guess a year ago, we went through a merger of Caliber and New Res, and from a wholesale perspective, the New Res wholesale channel merged in with Caliber. We're on the Caliber platform. Recently, we did change our name to New Res actually about 2 weeks ago. And just to make sure everybody understands that we are still the Caliber New Res team on the Caliber platform. We just changed our brand for various reasons. A lot of it was efficiencies based on licensing with the agencies. And there's some financial benefits there as well. We like to say that's one of our strengths, is our financial strength within the REIT and the fact we are the largest servicer, non-bank servicer, third largest servicer overall. Now we're going to talk about the market a little bit. You know, I liked the conversation that took place at lunch today. Look, you make the market yourself. I mean, it is a difficult market. I think for the last 4 weeks in a row, applications have declined. 9 out of the last 10 weeks. You hear this negative data over and over and
Go to
over.
the mic.
You get caught up watching the news. You get caught up watching
Johnny, go to the mic.
CNBC.
There you go,
The one thing you have to remember, and again, I keep going back to the conversation at lunch because I do think that, touched a lot of different people in here. You can get caught up in the negative aspect of the market, what direction's going, where the 10-year go, from day to day. And, you forget about doing what's made you successful all along, and that's making the call, growing your prospect base, growing your product base. That's one thing from a loan officer perspective that you can really do right now is expand your product knowledge and your product base. We're having a breakout session tomorrow with New Res, Chris Mazzillo, Christine Still, who you heard about a couple times. Join that. It's not just about Smart Series with New Res. There's several opportunities out there with other organizations to expand your knowledge, and with that, you gain strength. You can gain your real estate base. Now, the market itself, look, it's anybody's guess. Depends on who you talk to from day to day. The market going to get better? If so, when? Is it going to get worse? Are rates going to go up? Rates are going to go down? And the truth is, nobody really knows. Nobody can really tell you that. You got to prepare yourself for the future. And that's what we're doing at New Res. Look, we've cut our expenses. We look for new ways to bring revenue into the company. If the market does turn for the better, then we're prepared to do that by growing as fast as we possibly can grow to bring in the volume. If it turns the other way, we're already slim. I will say one of our competitors up here have done a fantastic job at cutting their cost to produce a loan. In some aspect, all of us are chasing that. With that said, every organization up here has their strengths and maybe a little bit of weaknesses to go with that as well. But that's what you have to identify within yourself. What's your strengths? What can you grow off of? How can you address your weaknesses, your challenges, and get better? But with that, continue to look at what you're good at and make sure that you're the best possible you in that regard. It's hard to get up here and talk about the market because,
Well, really, realistically, so you said the market's anybody's guess, right?
yeah.
What's your guess? What are your people telling
From
you?
a corporate standpoint, I will tell you that we do think come second quarter that we're most likely going to enter into a recession. Now, with that poses some challenges within MSR values right now. You probably have peaked out on the value of an MSR, so that's making companies a little squeamish with how much do you really want to put on the books right now when it's likely that MSR value could deteriorate in the future. Why would it deteriorate? Delinquency, forbearance cost, foreclosure, all of those expenses the servicer fronts to start up front, and then you eventually will get paid, but that's all cash. And then you look at the fact that from a daily standpoint, especially, I think the best word that describes this market, everybody here is probably tired of hearing it, is volatility. One day you're up 100 basis points, the next day you're improving 100 basis points. That creates havoc on the capital markets. And, it requires companies to bring additional cash. You call them haircuts. You get additional haircuts where your loans are valued less one day than they were the previous day, and you have to bring extra capital to the table to offset that. So our best thought on where the market is going to go is that maybe late second quarter, early third quarter, you could start seeing some rate relief. And again, the more business you put on right now from a purchase standpoint, the more opportunity it's going to create for you, down the road, an opportunity to keep that customer. So that's our best guess from a market standpoint.
And look, Barry's going to be here tomorrow to talk about markets too, right? The guy with the guy that can see into the future of this. So anybody really wants to hear into the markets, make sure you're here tomorrow morning, obviously, to catch Barry, because he always goes over some great market insights. But Pablo, I invited you here, man. One of my most favorite competitors, brother.
Right.
So,
I don't see us as competitors.
And you're killing it out there in
collaborators.
Cali.
So my name is Pablo Martinez. I'm based out of Los Angeles, California, and Pasadena. I'm one of you guys. I'm a broker. I'm a success story. I started from nothing. High school, got kicked out of high school, continuation. Had a child at 17. Life was falling apart. Once I had my child, decided to get my life together, and went to college, got into UC Santa Barbara, turned my life around, and I wanted to become a social worker, right? And when I graduated, I realized that the job market was really difficult, right? And had a buddy that worked at a company called Countrywide Home Loans. You guys remember that company? So I started in their emerging markets because I'm Hispanic, right? So they wanted to have more representation for Hispanics. But I quickly realized that being a loan officer made a lot of money. Even back then, you could make $20,000 a month, which I thought was great, right? As a social worker, you can only make $9. I graduated. I started this business and graduated from Santa Barbara in 1998. I did the whole retail thing till 2001 when I decided to become a broker. Why did I decide to become a broker? Was because I had a lot of realtors I was working with. I was servicing them. I was helping them out. And unfortunately, I had to turn away loans, and I thought that was just the normal thing, right? And I didn't like turning away loans, but when I was working with just one company, I had limited products to work with, right? So then I'd follow up with some of my customers, and they'd tell me, oh, no, I already closed my loan. I'm like, what? How did you close your loan? Oh, yeah, this broker helped me. I'm like, what the hell's a broker, right? So at that point in my life, I already had decided to become a career loan officer. So I said, you know what, I need to become a broker. So I researched it, started my own shop, made the ballsy move to just go from a retail comfortable situation with full benefits and everything. And it was at the time, I felt like it was a tough decision, but I was sweating it because I was a top producer. Everyone loved me at the company, and now I was going to go venture on my own, and I was going to be on my own. And this one thought is what changed my mind. I said, you know what? I kick ass. These guys are going to hire me no matter what, even if I fail over here. But if I don't give myself the opportunity, I'm never going to know what's going to happen. So I just went balls out, had nothing to lose, And yeah, it was tough. The first 6 months, I had to restructure myself and everything. But once I got momentum going, the rest was history. You know, by 2007, I had 150 loan officers, escrow company, kicking ass. I was young though. I was making tons of money. I was a little irresponsible. Didn't save. Didn't understand what a market crash. It just felt like money was being printed. And I think Todd or someone said earlier, when you could just, if I want to make money today, I'll just get on the phone and make money. That's how it felt. And back then, I mean, lending was just very irresponsible. There was all these weird products, 80/20s, option arms, all these weird things, right? And then the stated loans, market crashed, right? The market crashed. And it was horrible, but I muscled through it. I actually, one of the few loan officers that actually stayed in this, and I was sharing that with Mike, and I think that's why he was captivated with my story. I did have to do alternative things at the time because at the time, people didn't have any skin in the game, right? So they could just let go of their property. Well, you got me into a house with just a 650 FICO score, no money out of my pocket. So if you're asking me for the payment that I can afford no more, I'm out of here because all these loans started adjusting, right? So it was just a terrible time. I wasn't prepared. The one thing I did do right was I bought a bunch of investment properties that helped me carry me over through until the whole recession was kind of settling down, like till 2011. And then after that, I just started rebuilding and a lot wiser, a lot smarter. I always played defense and offense, and what I mean by that is I always maintain the low overhead because I was thinking that the next recession is around the corner. I always pretended that. So I played defense in that sense, that everything was just ready, low costs on everything, rent, everything as much as I can keep the costs down. But at the same time, I played offense, right? So I was out there marketing, making calls, doing all these things to grow my business, started recruiting again, and I'm running a pretty successful shop in Los Angeles now, and I've learned a lot. Industry has been great. By the time I was 29 years old, and I only say this for you guys to be inspired, especially the ones that are new, I was already a millionaire. And but one of the main things that kept me in this industry was the constant push to grow, to develop yourself. That was the one thing you're gonna make tons of money, you're gonna do all these things, but that feeling that you get that I gotta just keep stepping up, I gotta scale up. Because we as loan officers, we're not just loan officers, we're marketing, we're sales, we're a shitload of things, right? And leaders, administrators, everything. So you have to learn every part of the business. It's not simple being a loan officer. It's not. There's a lot to learn, and you have to get good at different facets of the industry, right? You're basically a business in yourself, and give yourself that opportunity. The one thing I do want to say is that I invested heavily in myself, in my education, my self-growth. That was the one thing I always did, and I always will continue to do, because you have these big companies like Honda, Ford, and all these are investing in robots, right? Machines to make the cars quicker, cheaper, faster, right? In this industry, we are the machines. We are the ones that are making shit happen, right? So we got to invest in ourselves. If you're not investing in yourselves, you're not going to get too far in this industry, because everyone else is doing it is going to outcompete you and outperform you. So I think I said too much.
So is that what
on to my good buddy Alan Bidone.
So just real quick follow-up to that. Is that what you're telling your loan officers, to invest in yourself? Because you have a lot of loan officers within your organization.
Yeah. I mean, it's all about that's the message we're always sending. Invest in yourself, because there's all these great things that you can do.
Can you give them a specific though? Right? Like, how are your loan officers investing in themselves? Give them like one good takeaway that you want them to do today.
So one good place to start is if you don't, I mean, here's one of the things that we have that we enjoy as a loan officers, right? We have the freedom of mobility, time. We control these things. So basically, we don't have a boss. We're our own boss. So we don't protect what we're doing, and we don't have a schedule or a calendar or organized, and we can procrastinate, we can get lazy, and we can fall off, right? So if you find yourself in that place, get a coach. I think they were talking about getting a coach, and if not,
Christine Beckwith is here.
Yeah, if not, get an accountability partner. You got to hold yourself accountable, because that same thing that we enjoy, that freedom, can also be your downfall. Hey, well, I'm going to turn on the TV, and before you know it, it's 2 or 3 o'clock, and you haven't done shit. So make sure you hold yourself accountable. If you don't, find someone that's going to hold you accountable. The one thing that you can do immediately, there's this app called Audible. You guys familiar with Audible? So when I go to the gym in the morning, I work out my body, but then I'm also working out my mind. I download all these books from you guys. I hear what you guys are reading and what other leaders are reading. And even if I just get one takeaway for that day, I can take it back to my office, pump up my team, pump up myself. So begin by doing that. I don't like reading. Now, reading is, my eyes get tired. I'm getting old. Listening to the books is just as powerful. You can rewind, you can speed it up, and you can get a lot of knowledge. But start on that path. Once you get on that path, for me, there was no turning back. So I'll let Alan continue.
Inspiring, definitely. So my name's Alan Baidu, and I'm the Executive Vice President of Sales at United Wholesale Mortgage. And as you guys, we do the two clap.
Can we get a Ric Flair?
When I introduce Eddie, but just real quick. So I've been at UWM for about 16 years. When I started there, we were about 15, 20 people. And it's funny because I came from a banking background. I was a branch manager at a bank in Michigan called Michigan National Bank, and we had a JV relationship with a retail company inside of our office where we would refer our clients for their mortgages. And, my office would get a certain percentage of that mortgage when it closes, a very small percent. It wasn't much money, but it was part of our profit and loss for the branch. And so I would refer, 5 to 7, 10 people a month to this loan officer, and, my branch would get a couple $100, and, I'd ask the LO, hey, we got like $2,400 this month. How much did you make? And they told me how much they made. I said, wow, I'm referring all these people to you, and as a branch manager, I'm making $70,000 a year, right, at a bank, and you're making a multiple six-figure income. I got to figure out what's going on in the mortgage industry. Well, at first, I followed the money, which did not go very well. Second, when I learned that, we're putting people in the biggest investment, helping them get into the biggest investment of their life, where really the mortgage industry made sense to me. How do we help people? How do we help consumers? And how do we make it a better process? And I think you mentioned it earlier, our cost per loan is probably the lowest in the industry. And Matt Ishby, our president and CEO, will be here tomorrow. This session starts at 11. But how do we make it to where we able to deliver a faster, easier experience? And back then, our company about 16 years ago, we had two channels, like everybody else. We had a wholesale side and we had a retail side. And the reason why we're able to keep our costs so low is because we had one singular focus where we made the decision to get rid of retail. And the only way UWM makes money is through mortgage brokers. Like, we don't own any other businesses. It's one singular focus. And that's why I believe our technology is the best, our process is the best, and brokers that use United Wholesale Mortgage are growing faster than anybody in the industry. So you're going to ask me about the market. I'm not an economist. I don't dig deep into the numbers of where the forecast is going, where everything's going, but I do know what originators can do now. Originators, or processors, originators, you can control your controllables. The panel earlier, in the earlier sessions today, like if you're making 5 calls a day, right now, why aren't you making 10? If you're attending one open house a weekend, why aren't you attending 5 of them, right? Because right now is the opportunity. Right now is the opportunity to build your business. Not when rates turn in the first quarter or the second quarter. Right now is the time to build the relationships with your referral partners, with your real estate agents, with your CPAs, with your title companies. Be out there in your communities, and that's the beauty of being self-employed. That's the beauty of being an originator. Like, you're in your communities, you're out there on your football fields, your soccer tournaments, like you're talking to people every day. Todd Bitter said it best. I get to tell everybody what I do on a daily basis. I'm an originator, and that's what I do. If I'm sitting at a restaurant, somebody's sitting next to me, they're talking about mortgages, I'm introducing myself. And somebody asked earlier, how many calls does it take? Well, you don't know how many calls it takes. It takes what it takes. Do as much as you can. So if you're looking for a forecast from an economist, if I had a crystal ball, I wouldn't be sitting up on this stage right now, trust me. But I do know that if you control your controllables, every day you
Doesn't Barry have a couple crystal balls?
Yeah, Barry might have one.
He's like 3.
Yeah.
Right, 3?
Yeah.
Is it 3?
It's like 3.
Yeah.
But I do know
Like
if
literally.
you control it, you're going to advance, you're going to succeed, you're going to continue to pick up market share. And, you know, the one thing I learned, and, you know, I don't know if I'm lucky or if it was just hard work, I got to work with, you know, with a titan in our industry, Matt Ishbia, very closely with him. And, you know, for many years, he said, Alan, you have to be in the weeds of our business. You have to be out there with our brokers. You have to be out there with the associations, talking to our clients. I want you in the weeds. And 6 months ago, he told me, Alan, I no longer want you in the weeds of our business. I want you in the dirt. Figure out what's going on. Like if somebody's sending us 80% of their business, why aren't they sending us 90? If somebody's just getting started in the industry, how can we get them over to our success track classes at UWM? How can we get them to go through our partner academy? Like we have tools to help you grow your business. Like I said earlier, we have one singular focus. It's wholesale. We've been the #1 wholesale lender in the country past 8 years. I'm pretty confident this past quarter, third quarter, we're the #1 lender overall. The official numbers don't come out here for the next 30, 45 days. But I think we surpassed the biggest retailer out there, Rocket Mortgage, by the way, who competes with you guys every single day. We have a lot of good people here. Talk to the person sitting next to you. Take away a best practice. Talk to us up here on the panel. We've done everything. We've originated. We've been on the wholesale side. We've been on the retail side. You know, we know what it takes. And if you get two takeaways today, you're never going to lose if you have a strong work ethic and a positive attitude. With that being said, let's give a 2-clap to Eddie Perez.
Thank you, Alan, and congratulations in advance for becoming the largest lender in America.
By the way, I want to point out, Pablo took a lot of your time. Y'all need to raise his rates. Kidding.
For everybody that I don't know out there, it's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Matt, for this opportunity up here. I'm Eddie Perez. A lot similar to you guys. I started 20 years ago in the business, a lot like you guys. I was an originator in 2002 and 2005. I opened my broker shop, and then, as crazy as it sounds, in 2008 is when I decided to go become a lender. And my focus and idea was back then, at some point in time, I will serve the wholesale community, having come from it. Part of the reason you're probably asking is, why were you crazy enough to enter in 2008? That's only because in 2001, I was a stockbroker. And for a lot of you guys that are young out there that don't know about the dot-com crash, it pretty much got rid of every stockbroker. Well, that taught me a lot. Because, you know, when you talk about the banks in 2001 said they were going to solve the problem and all that. Well, then in 2007, I heard a conversation, October 2007, by Jamie Dimon, the only guy that survived the Too Big to Fail, that said that they basically changed the word stock and just put mortgage and said mortgage broker was to blame for everything. Well, we all know that's bullshit, because you need a lender to do those loans. And back then, let's call it that nobody wants to talk about it. We talked about it earlier. You could fog a mirror to get a loan back then. So it was just poor underwriting guidelines. Not poor underwriting, it was just the bucket was too wide and unhealthy. And we were also coming into an era where the demographics weren't as strong. There was just not as many first-time home buyers because of birth rates 31 years earlier. And we got into it in 2008, got into wholesale in 2014. Through that time, it's been a journey. And, you know, I will tell you this, guys, everything. I saw this in 2007, and I'm sure everybody else will repeat it. This isn't just a correction. This is a changing of the guard. Happens about every 14 to 16 years. And I truly believe in my heart of hearts that this is going back to when I got in the industry in 2002, where 2 out of every 3 loans either came from wholesale or the non-Dell channel. Retail is going to become very specialized, and you're starting to see that more because now the consumers have confidence. Now, unlike the crash, when we talk about the banks, that they put a lot of these stereotypes out there, now everybody that is in wholesale has just as much access, availability to get shit done. That was a narrative that was sold for a long time that may have been true at one point, but is no longer true or accurate. So for everybody out there, hang in. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it doesn't have some challenges. However, it's still baked in opportunity. We're still going to do a little over $2 trillion next year Sure, it's not 4 trillion like 2020 and 2021. However, you also have to understand more and more people are exiting the industry. A lot of people are retiring. Just look at social media. You're seeing more and more people retire, and it's now people in their 30s and 40s and early 50s that are on the rise for the next 14 to 15 years. So hang in there. I've seen this before. I'm not joking when I say this. There's never been a more exciting time to be an originator, a mortgage broker, or a non-Dell lender. Thank you.
Quick question, though, real quick follow-up there. So you said we're going to expect to do how many trillion this year as an industry?
It's still going to be a little over 2 trillion,
All right.
2.1 trillion.
What did we do in 2016? Anybody know?
16 was good. Are you talking about 17?
Let's go 17.
17 sucked. 18 sucked. You did, was it 1.7 trillion?
Right,
and
but we're here, right?
Yeah.
We're here, and we're going to
Yeah.
do more business than then.
Yes.
Right? So just stick with it. Do what you did then.
And can I add something to that? And during the crash, too, after the crash, I mean, some crazy stuff started happening. I mean, we're not even close to even remotely panicking, I think, because, you guys heard of the LTV hit? Anyone heard of LTV hit? So because a lot of the markets were in a declining market, if someone wanted to put a 5% down, and if you were considered a declining market, there was something called a 5% LTV hit.
Yeah.
And so there was all these scary things going on. Brokers got such a bad rap that even when I did loans, I had to go to my buddy at Bank of America to do a pre-approval letter for me so I can help my realtor or my customer get a house because no one wanted to deal with brokers. So we're not even close.
Right.
All you have to do right now is just triple, quadruple your efforts, like Alan said, and you're going to be good. But you got to do it. That's the only difference right now. Back then, it didn't matter what you did. You weren't going to get business no matter what. I think my shop was the only shop for miles around after that happened.
So when you think about it, and Eddie brought up a great point, and Pablo, $2 trillion market, 80% of that market is where? It's in retail. You have an opportunity. So even if the market shrinks, 80% is still in retail. You can go out and get it because you have more products, right? You have a variety of lenders that you can choose from. You're not boxed in to where the retail LO only has a specific amount of products to choose from or a certain rate range, right? You have conventional, FHA, VA, DSCR loans, bank statement loans, non-QM loans. Or if you go to a box retailer, they don't have the products that you have to offer. So when you're talking to your real estate agents, and right now the purchase game is big, right? Like you have options for that consumer. Don't forget, like don't sell yourself short. If they're dealing with the bank or if they're dealing with a retailer, make sure you know you let them understand how much more you can do for them in their business. You have 2-1 buy downs. Like I'm seeing a lot of posts on social media about 2-1 buy downs and how they're still able to increase the seller concessions, use that for the 2-1 buy down. Real estate agents are loving that and mortgage brokers are offering that. You have a leg up. That true $2 trillion market belongs on the wholesale side, on the broker side. You just have to go out and get it.
Now, I want to bring up one special person, Jackie Dunlap. And I want to bring her up because, Alan, you mentioned earlier, getting in the dirt, right? Jackie Dunlap is works a little bit more in the processing environment, and that should be live for you, girl.
Is it?
So, and I jumped the shark a little bit when I told her to come up earlier. My bad. Sorry for the surprise there. But look, I want you to talk to them. You're in the dirt with some loan officers, and you know some good top producers.
Yep.
What are they doing in this market?
Some of it is they're going back to ground roots, pounding the pavement, making the phone calls. But that conversation is different, okay? I just want to say, to validate myself really quick, anybody here been at UWM long enough to remember Pronto, the Pronto team? Nobody? Never mind then, it doesn't matter. Anyway, so the conversation
Next has only been around 5 years.
Yeah, so the conversation right now is different, right? How many of us are getting bombarded with emails and phone calls from AEs like, oh, do you have a loan for me? Do you got a deal? Can I help you out with anything? And any given day we're like, no, I don't. This is what's happening in the realtor space. So the conversations that are being had are wildly different. The top producing loan officers and people that I'm in spheres with and working with, they're doing education, but they're doing it in a different way. They're not saying, let me educate you on this program. They're saying, how can we get business back in the door? How do we pique interest? How do we get buyers to come into these places, into these homes, to fall in love with these things? Do you know about assumptions? Do you know about 2-1 buy downs? Do you know about a permanent buy down? Let me talk to you about this. Let me hold a class. So the conversation, even though we're going back to pounding the pavement, the conversations are different. So I can tell you right now, if you want to know what realtor pain points are, you want to be following Inman News. Talks a lot about what realtors are really facing right now. And you want to have a team mentality. It's not what can I get for you, what buyer can you send to me? It's how are we going to do this? How are we going to salvage our community home value? How are we going to get these properties to stop declining, stop doing price cuts, let's do a seller concession instead. These are the kind of conversations that are happening right now. One of the biggest loan officers that I know in the East Coast is using the MMI report to farm information. Does everybody, or does a lot of people know what the MMI report is?
They all have access to it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what she's doing is she's using the MMI for the realtors in her area and looking at what is the history of a realtor's transactions. Are they using multiple lenders in their previous transaction, or are they only using one lender in all of their purchase transactions? Or even, are they using that same lender on their sell side? If you don't understand what that means, what it says to us is if a realtor has multiple lending partners throughout their transactional history, they don't have a preferred lending partner. So let's have that conversation. Hey, I noticed over the last 6 transactions you've done, as a buyer's agent, you've had a different lending partner. Can we talk about those experiences? What did you like? What did you not like? Would you be willing to give me the opportunity to work with your next client? We talked about this earlier, right? Asking the listing agent for the business. We're in a place where we have to be, number one, asking for the business. That's sales like 101. Okay, we have to ask for it. We just have been in an environment for 2 years where we didn't have to ask for it. We went to work, we opened email, we picked up the phone, and it was there. That's not the way that it's going to be anymore. A lot of people are now taking the time to address whatever their pain points were over the last 18 to 24 months. Were you not able to get everything in a CRM? Did your follow-up? How loosey-goosey are we on the language?
The what?
All right. If you don't know me, I had to ask that question. How loosey-goosey are in language? Did your follow-up suck? Right? If you were in here during the top producers panel earlier, did somebody ghost you and they didn't have the courtesy to call you and say, hey, I'm going with somebody else? Why? The gentleman up here said, I want to know why somebody doesn't feel like they can call me and say, I've decided to go with somebody else. Or am I providing the kind of experience with a client that they at least respect me enough to say, hey, Jackie, great job. I appreciate everything you did, but I think we got a better deal over here and we're going to go over here. And you know what? When they say that to me, what I say to them is, listen, send me your stuff. Listen, I'm going to keep it real kind of gal. If that's a better deal, I'm going to tell you lock that in and you lock it in today. Okay? We're turning raving fans into referral partners. If you're spending money on advertising, great. But how many word-of-mouth referrals have you gotten over the last 18 to 24 months? And if that number is small, why? You have time right now to address whatever your pain points were with you, your staff, your follow-up, your CRM, your tech, whatever that was. So when these people are up here saying you need to work on yourself, and it's like, what are you doing? I don't know, what weren't you doing the last 18 to 24 months? Do you have a Calendly? Do you offer Zoom calls? Do you think to yourself, oh, I need to set that up? Set that shit up right now. That's what you should be doing. Sorry.
That was great.
That was awesome.
That's awesome. So we have a few more minutes, guys. I want to open it up to a little bit of Q&A as well. Let you guys ask your questions of these guys, right? And don't be afraid. Ask them the hard questions. You guys do it to me a lot of you guys do, the ones with next every week in town hall. So treat them like you treat me a little bit.
I do want to add one thing real quick,
Yeah.
and maybe Barry can address his thoughts on this tomorrow. But there is a school of thought moving forward that everything moves so fast anymore, and everything's so tied, not only to what happens here in the U.S. but internationally, that ongoing, we're going to see more times like this, but also faster markets come back into your chance to have a better refi market. In other words, it's going to be more like this as opposed to maybe a wave. So you often hear about loan officers that after a refi boom, they want to take some time off, maybe gather themselves, take a long vacation. Ongoing, that may not be the way to think about it. If you take that long time off, you might miss out on the next opportunity to really take advantage of the market and work your way to that next refi market In other words, take advantage of the purchase market that you have right now, because it is more than likely going to be shorter spurts than what maybe you've seen historically. At least that's one school of thought.
I feel like this goes a little bit back to what Eddie was talking about too, right? The changing of the guards. You're going to see people who are grinding it out ultra hard. And look, after 2008, what happened? How many friends did we have in the business in 2008 that are not here now, that didn't make it through that? People who couldn't weather that storm. You're going to see that happen now, and that's an opportunity for everybody else, and there's some changing of the guards. And what are we? You said 14 years?
It's about every 14, 16
And we're at
years you see
14
it changing,
years.
because in 2007, I talked to people from the previous one,
Yeah.
and it's about every 14, 16 years, they say the people that are like mid-upper 30s to early 50s, and then it's just an age progression.
Yes.
It's like a career, like an athlete. They get their 15-year run, and then at the end, when there's a difficult time, just like an athlete, they're not as productive as they used to be. They kind of slowly coast it on in.
Yes, and somebody else steps up. So the question is who that was doing 2, 3, 4 loans a month last year, which was considered really mediocre, right, is going to be the ones who step it up now, and going into a new market is going to be the ones doing 20, 25 loans a month for the people who are doing that now. Who's going to be the ones kicking that production? Because the changing of the guard, if by your numbers, it's exactly 14 years.
Yeah, and to that point, for myself, when the market crashed, I hung around. It was a grind. It was pretty tough. But as soon as the market started coming back, since I was like the only broker shop in town, people started calling me back. Hey, I want to get back in. I want to get back in. And before you knew it, I had 10, 20, 30. And that itself motivated me to start, you know what, I got to reinvent myself, redesign myself. But just being part of the staying in it and grinding it out gave me that opportunity. And I think I've done way better the second time around than the first time, and in large part because I got wiser and smarter, right? I got experience. I learned from my mistakes. But being there, just grinding it out and playing it out, gave me that opportunity to grow even further and beyond what I even thought was possible to where I'm at now. So,
Yeah.
grind it out.
I think Jackie also brought up some good points. Right now, the key, especially when you're originating through the process, or you brought up Pronto. At UWM, we didn't have any layoffs, even in this down market. We're overstaffed by design. So if the market turns tomorrow, we can still handle all your files. Like literally, we're 24 hours right now in underwrites, 24 hours to clear your conditions. But what's more important right now is the client service aspect. Like, how are you treating that client? What type of process are you putting them through? Right? That's what your realtors are going to remember, because everybody remembers the last thing of the transaction. What is it? It's the closing, right? Everything happens smoothly. You get to the closing, and everybody remembers exactly what happens at the closing. How did you perform? That's all it comes down to. You get them into the right product, you put them through the right process, that client will be your client for life.
There's a number of newer LOs that do the scenarios class, typically with me, with Christine in 2020 Vision. And so if you're in the room, you've heard me say this, but I'll say it here in this room today. For those of you that build, sustain, and last through this, what you choose to do right now will either be your legacy for your life and your family, or it'll be just enough to carry you through, and you'll be one of the 2/3 that ends up falling out next time. That's how serious these downtimes are. And I've been in the market since 2005. So even though I'm like 28, and I was like 11 when I did it last time, like I remember these things, okay? And so this is really the time. All the things that you coulda, woulda, shoulda, either over the last 18 to 24 months. And listen, here's the thing. I have a 27, 25, and 23-year-old. And for the last 2 years, my 25 and 23-year-old have been instrumental in running my company, because I don't know tech like that. And it scares the crud out of me sometimes to implement some of this tech. Is that you? Some of us in here, like everybody in here was like afraid to hold their phone up this morning with Josh. Is social media your thing? Because there's some stuff that we got to get over if we're going to make it through. You're just going to have to get over it. And for those of you that follow me on social media, one day you're just going to have to run the damn hill. You're just going to have to get up over it. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you just go find me on social media and scroll back like a couple weeks. You'll figure it out.
Follow Tim Grover, what he said.
And follow Tim Grover. But Tim Grover came and spoke at EPM at Eddie's event at the end of July. And there was one thing that he said, and I'm going to challenge you to do the same thing. He had all of us stand up in the room, and he said, I want you to pick one thing and commit to it for the next 30 days. So right now I'm going to ask all of you, think of one thing, just one. And I want you to commit to it the way that he challenged us to commit to it for the next 30 days, all in. Not 50%, not when you feel like it, not Monday, Wednesday, Friday, all in, 100%, 30 days. You can pick one personal, one business. And it's, if for those of you in the women's Nexa this morning, maybe it's something that lines up with your honor code that you know has been chipping away at some stuff for you. 30 days all in. And I had a friend remind me about 8 days in. She's like, man, I want to go 50, but I said all in. And please hear the passion in my voice, because I know that for many of us in this room right now, this is make or break for you. The next 60, 90 days is going to determine whether or not you're going to be here next year to see the refi boom or not.
Now,
so
Jackie,
why not go in?
You said a lot of people right now that you're working with, good, successful loan officers, are doing education right now.
Yes.
Educating realtors, those
Yep.
kinds of things. And I want to remind everybody that tomorrow, Leroy Romero will be here to talk about how
Yes.
to get realtors' butts in a seat, specifically to educate and then teach them to do the same thing for their consumers.
Yes, 3:30 tomorrow, Leroy Romero is going to be here, and he is phenomenal at filling rooms with realtors to give them education. Primarily, his focus is the VA loan, but there are a lot of things right now. There are a lot of products, a lot of opportunities in the market, and you'll hear tomorrow. I just heard Barry earlier this week on Tuesday, and listen, it's not all doom and gloom. The sky is not falling, and you're going to have to spend a lot of time and a lot of emotional work reminding yourself that the sky is not falling, and stay clear from the people who are like, it's coming down. Like, the headroom's going to get a little short, but it's not over.
I want to give people a tip. I learned this literally 2 weeks ago, and I know that some people are probably already doing it, so the people of my age and that don't think like this, and this will work. This is very powerful. It came from a digital marketing specialist. If you really want to connect to people right now in this Zoom world, it's still about face-to-face. Get your cell phone, do a selfie video instead of a text, and text it out to somebody. I promise you, the guy made us do it, all of us, because it was at my CEO peer group. Pick one person, do a video. It could be about gratitude. It could be updating information. It could be anything. Because naturally, we yearn for biological connection, which goes to oxytocin. And when you do those videos, it's better than just regular text, even the voice. Me and Fidel were talking about it. I've started doing it. I'm just telling you right now, for all you originators, and I'll definitely show my age on this one, for all of us that played Contra as kids, this is the Contra cheat code. I'm just being honest with you. Text videos.
I rocked Contra, bro.
Oh man, I love me some Contra.
Guys, I really, really appreciate everything. So guys, do me a favor. When you get a chance, grab these guys in the hall, pick their brain. These are some of the smartest guys, people in the industry, and gal. Say guys.
I'm okay with guys. It's fine.
Right. She's one of the guys.
I'm good with it.
She's with us. So. These are the smart. Thank you. Thank you.